Welcome to Payback with Silas. Every day, a new story, lies, betrayal, payback. Let's begin.
You can give 18 years of your life to something. Build it brick by brick, bleed into it, lose sleep, birthdays, anniversaries, and still, one day, someone in a tailored suit can look you dead in the eye and say, "You're slowing us down." That's what happened to me. My name is Marshall Crane, and until recently, I was the lead systems architect at Deltawell Technologies, a company I helped build from the ground up, back when it was just a glorified garage startup in South Austin with a busted coffee machine and a vision. Back then, nobody believed in what we were building, nobody but me and a guy named Alston Fairweather, the original founder. We wrote the first 30,000 lines of code on folding tables from Walmart. I architected the system that would eventually process real-time logistics for over 300 clients across North America. I was the architecture. But tech grows fast. And somewhere along the line, loyalty got versioned out. The first time I met Ronan Maddox, I knew he was trouble. New CEO. Came in wearing $4,000 loafers and a smirk that never quite reached his eyes. Spoke in buzzwords like they were scripture. Disrupt. Scale. New vision. Fresh blood. Never once asked how anything actually worked. He didn't need to. His job was to clean house. And I guess I was. The dust. It was a Tuesday when he called me into the boardroom. Place was glass-walled, cold, modern, like they wanted the room to feel sterile. He didn't waste time. "Marshall," he said, leaning back like he owned the air. "You've been here a long time. And we respect what you've done. But we're taking Deltawell in a new direction." I didn't blink. I already knew where this was going. Still, I stayed silent. I wanted to hear it from him. "We're looking for people who think forward. People with a modern mindset. Your architecture, it's solid, but it's legacy thinking. We need velocity. You slow us down." There it was. 18 years. Summarized in 2 sentences and a shrug. I didn't argue. What was the point? Men like Ronan aren't there to talk. They're there to erase. So I stood up, shook his hand, and walked out. Calm. Collected. But before I left that building, I took one last stroll down to Sublevel B, my old server lab. I didn't take anything that belonged to the company. But what I did take were my personal notes. My sketches. My frameworks. My logs of ideas that were never implemented, never greenlit, but all mine. Ideas I had written on nights when the rest of the building was dark, and I was the only one left awake, dreaming of something better. I don't think they realized what I took. But when they finally did, Ronan Maddox lost his damn mind. He started calling. Emailing. Legal threats. But it was too late. They fired me like I was dead weight. They had no idea they just lit the match. They say when you lose your job, the first thing that hits you is shock. For me, it wasn't shock. It was silence. You don't notice how loud purpose is until it's gone. Every morning for 18 years, I had a reason to wake up. Bugs to fix. Systems to scale. Teams to mentor. Coffee to curse. Now? Nothing. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed that first morning after it happened, still waking up at 6:12 a.m. like muscle memory. But instead of standing up, I just sat there. Like a ghost of myself. Staring at the wall. Wondering what the hell just happened. The weird thing is, I didn't even feel angry, not yet. It was more like this quiet emptiness. Like someone had pulled the plug on the part of me that made sense. You spend nearly 2 decades becoming something. A senior architect. A pillar of the team. The glue behind the system. And then suddenly, none of that matters. Because someone newer, louder, shinier came along and decided you're obsolete. I kept thinking about Ronan's face. That look in his eye when he said the words. "You're slowing us down." The arrogance. The youth. The complete ignorance of what came before him. He didn't know about the night the core server failed at 2:47 a.m. and I drove across town in a thunderstorm just to hard reboot it. He didn't know that I once rewrote the deployment pipeline from scratch, over Christmas Eve, just so our beta clients wouldn't churn. But he didn't need to know. Because Ronan didn't care about what was. He only cared about what looked good in the next investor meeting. I tried to distract myself. Went to the gym. Didn't help. Cleaned the garage. Just found old hardware that reminded me of the company. Called my brother, he offered to grab beers and talk about it. Like it was a breakup. But this wasn't heartbreak. This was erasure. I started rereading my old notebooks. The ones I took when I left. Page after page of ideas that never got funded. Code structures that were too ambitious. Diagrams of neural scaling systems, decentralization protocols, AI-assisted anomaly detection. Stuff that scared the board. Stuff that Ronan called unnecessary sophistication. And somewhere around page 113, I stopped reading. Because something clicked. No, I wasn't obsolete. They were just afraid of what they couldn't understand. That's when the silence broke. And something else came in. Resolve. That night, I opened a fresh terminal window on my personal machine. Typed 4 words. I didn't know what it would become yet. But I knew one thing. I wasn't done. And the next time they heard my name, it wouldn't be as their ex-employee. It'd be as their biggest competition. They say rock bottom is where you find out who you really are. I found out I was a builder. Even without the budget, without the team, without the badge on my shirt, I was still an architect. So I built. Every night for weeks, I sat in my one-bedroom apartment in East Austin, blinds shut, lights dimmed, screen glowing. No distractions. No noise. Just code and caffeine and the haunting voice of Ronan Maddox echoing in my head. You slow us down. Yeah? Let's see how fast I really am. I started with the bones, a modular, distributed core that could adapt to any logistics model. Made it light, agile, scalable, the exact opposite of the bloated architecture I was forced to maintain at Deltawell. By week 2, I'd already implemented a self-healing mesh network. By week 4, I'd built a predictive failure system with 87% accuracy. By week 6, I had something real. Something I hadn't felt in years. Momentum. One night, around 2 a.m., I pushed a commit to my private repo and opened an old chat window I hadn't touched in years. Isla Rowan. She was a back-end savant I mentored years ago, back when she was still green and hungry. She left Deltawell after a run-in with upper management, the kind of fight where you don't get to explain yourself. But I remembered her code, precise, brutal, elegant. Like a scalpel in a gunfight. I typed, "Still allergic to corporate bullshit?" She responded in 3 minutes. "You have something for me?" I sent her a preview build. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. "Isla. You built this yourself?" "Me. From the ground up." "Isla. This is 10 years ahead of what anyone's doing." "Me. That's the idea." "Isla. Tell me you're not planning to sit on this." I smiled. "I'm planning to burn the forest and grow something new." The next morning, she sent me a 40-page optimization proposal. The day after that, she quit her contract at a mid-tier firm in Seattle and moved back to Texas. No offer letter. No title. Just trust. She was the first one who believed in what I was doing. And in this business? That kind of loyalty is worth more than $1 million in funding. We worked out of my apartment for a month. Then out of a co-working space in a rundown building off Cesar Chavez. We slept on beanbags. Ate gas station tacos. Coded like maniacs. We called it Crane Protocol, not because of my name, but because cranes build the tallest things, piece by piece. And they never start from the top. One night Isla looked up from her screen and said, "You know they're going to find out what you're building, right?" I nodded. "Let them." Because by the time Deltawell realized what was happening, we wouldn't be the underdogs. We'd be the storm. You don't really know if your ideas are any good until someone's willing to pay for them. We were running on fumes, both financially and physically. 2 people. 2 laptops. An infrastructure prototype duct taped together with midnight adrenaline and 6 different programming languages. But it was alive. Crane Protocol was real. And we knew someone, somewhere, would see it. The breakthrough came from a guy named Jules Fenwick, CTO of a mid-sized supply chain firm out in Arizona called Nesticor. I'd met him once years ago at a logistics conference, back when I still wore a name badge with DeltaWell printed across it in fake gold letters. Back then, he told me, "If you ever break free from those suits, call me." So I did. I showed him what we built, how our architecture could predict shipment delays across a 300-node network with 90% accuracy using real-time signals and AI-based noise filtering. He leaned back, crossed his arms, and said just one thing. "How soon can you deploy?" We didn't have legal docs. We didn't have funding. We didn't even have a proper website. But we had the thing. And the thing was better than anything out there. 3 days later, Nesticor wired us $50,000 as a pilot contract. Islo and I just stared at the screen like kids who'd stumbled into a bank vault. It wasn't just the money. It was proof. We weren't crazy. We weren't obsolete. We were ahead. But success makes noise. And noise attracts attention. A week after our deployment, I got a letter, real paper, not email, from a law firm in New York. On behalf of our client, DeltaWell Technologies Incorporated. It accused me of misappropriation of proprietary techniques, intellectual asset migration, and a dozen other phrases that sounded like they were written by someone who never actually written code in their life. I laughed. Then I didn't. Because I knew what this was. They were scared. Scared that what they threw away was becoming more valuable than what they kept. Scared that I didn't die quietly in some consulting job or take a pay cut at a tech dinosaur. Scared that I was building something they couldn't control. Isla read the letter over my shoulder. "They're trying to bury us before we bloom." "Good," I said. "That means they hear us growing." We didn't stop. Instead, we called a lawyer. A real one. A quiet, ruthless woman named Talia Greaves who specialized in tech founders being hunted by the very companies they once built. She read the letter, smirked, and said, "This is noise. You're clean, as long as you never copied a line of their code." I hadn't. Everything was mine, rebuilt from scratch. Better. Leaner. Smarter. Free. 2 weeks later, Nesticor extended their contract to a full-year license. We moved out of the co-working space into a warehouse with concrete floors and terrible heating. But it was ours. We hired 2 more people. Set up servers. Launched our first monitoring dashboard. And every time I looked at the Crane Protocol logo on the login screen, I smiled. Because while Ronan Maddox was busy hiring fresh thinkers, we were building the future. There's a moment in every fight where the enemy stops laughing. Where they realize they're not swatting a fly, they're facing something with teeth. For DeltaWell, that moment came 6 weeks after we signed our 3rd client. It started quietly. We noticed some odd patterns in our traffic logs. Someone was scraping our API endpoints, triggering test environments under fake names. Then a few of our prospective clients, companies we had in late-stage talks, suddenly ghosted us. One of them, a CFO I'd spoken with for over a month, finally returned my call. He sounded nervous. "Marshall, I like what you're doing. I really do. But someone from DeltaWell called our board. Told them you're unstable. Said you stole core tech and you're gonna get shut down. They didn't want the risk." Unstable. That word hung in the air like smoke from a slow-burning fire. They weren't just trying to stop the company now. They were trying to erase me. 3 days later, I got a call. No caller ID. Just silence, then a voice. "You're playing in a grown man's game now, Marshall. Time to quit before someone gets hurt." Click. No name. No proof. But I knew exactly who it was. Ronan Maddox. I could hear that smug precision in his voice. The Ivy League arrogance coated in cold threat. He was unraveling. And nothing makes a man like him more dangerous than realizing he's losing control. I didn't respond. I didn't post about it. But I did gather the team in our warehouse office. Just 6 of us at that point. Isla. Devin, our security guy. Lena, front-end lead. 2 interns who had no idea what kind of war they'd walked into. I told them everything. The letter. The calls. The lies. I told them Deltwell was scared, and scared people swing wildly. I asked if anyone wanted to walk away. No one moved. Isla leaned forward, hands on the table. He thinks this is about revenge. It's not. It's about building something better. I nodded. But if he wants a war, then let's give him a war of reputation. Of results. Let's be so good, he can't lie loud enough to drown us out. That week, we launched our V2 platform. And it didn't just outperform Deltawell's system, it humiliated it. 10x faster processing. Real-time diagnostics. Autonomous load balancing. And a UI so simple, a kid could operate it. One of our new clients, a billion-dollar distribution network in Illinois, wrote a public case study praising our system and naming us directly. The headline read, Crane Protocol saved us $2.3 million in 6 weeks, why we left Deltawell. It went viral in the logistics tech world. And that's when the bleeding began. I heard from a friend still inside the Deltawell engineering team. He told me Ronan smashed a monitor in a meeting after seeing the article. Started calling emergency innovation sessions. Began firing mid-level managers and blaming them for leaks. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post a victory tweet. I didn't say a word. I just looked at our whiteboard, filled with ideas for version 3, and said, he thought I was slowing them down. Now I'm the reason they can't keep up. You don't know how far someone's willing to fall until they realize they can't climb over you. Ronan had tried everything. Whispers. Letters. Threats. None of it worked. Because the market doesn't believe in fear, it believes in results. And Crane Protocol was outperforming Deltawell at every turn. So, in a last-ditch move, he did something I didn't expect. He went public. It was a Tuesday morning when the headline dropped. Deltawell's CEO accuses ex-engineer of intellectual theft, calls competitor dangerous fraud. The article was full of venom. He claimed I'd stolen internal algorithms, violated ethical standards, and weaponized bitterness into deception. He painted a picture of a disgruntled old engineer trying to sabotage the future of innovation. But he made one mistake. He used my name. He gave me the microphone. Our PR team, yeah, we had one by now, asked me how I wanted to respond. Should we publish a formal statement? Threaten defamation suits? Run a counter-campaign? I said no. I had something better. 2 days later, I was invited to speak at a closed-door founder panel in San Francisco. Big names. Private. Media-free, except for one recorded session that streamed to investors and insiders across the valley. Ronan was on the same panel. When I saw his name on the list, I didn't flinch. I just packed my notes and flew west. The room was all glass and steel. Dozens of eyes. 3 panelists. And there he was, Ronan Maddox, sitting 3 seats away from me, wearing his tailored arrogance like it was custom-stitched. When the moderator turned to him and said, "There's been some noise recently. Ronan, anything you'd like to address?" He leaned forward like a predator and said, "We live in an era where resentment dresses itself in disruption. One of our former engineers, a man we gave every opportunity, is now misrepresenting stolen technology as innovation. It's not only unethical. It's dangerous." He didn't say my name. He didn't need to. The room turned toward me. The moderator said, "Marshall, would you like to respond?" I didn't look at Ronan. I looked at the room. And I spoke calmly. 18 years ago, I started building a system at Deltawell from scratch. It carried them through 3 CTOs, 4 markets, and hundreds of millions in revenue. When I was told I was slowing the company down, I left. With my dignity. With my mind. And with nothing that wasn't mine. I didn't steal code. I stole back my worth. The Crane Protocol isn't revenge. It's a blueprint for what's possible when vision isn't suffocated by ego. And if being old, quiet, and meticulous is dangerous, then maybe we need more danger in this industry. Silence. Even Ronan didn't speak. He just stared, jaw tight, hands clasped like a man praying for relevance. I didn't need applause. I didn't need vindication. I just needed that silence. Because this time, it belonged to me. After the panel, people started coming up to me. Investors. Engineers. Founders I'd admired from afar. One shook my hand and said, "You just ended his narrative." But the truth was, I never wanted to end his anything. I just wanted to build mine. Success doesn't come with fireworks. It comes in silence. In the late nights when the numbers align. In the morning check-ins where no one's panicking. In the moment you stop refreshing your bank account, because you finally know it'll be fine. That's what Crane Protocol became. Not a rebellion. Not a weapon. A solution. And people noticed. We closed a $12 million Series A led by a firm that once passed undealt well. We opened offices in Austin, Toronto, and Berlin. Global logistics firms lined up, not because we shouted the loudest, but because we quietly worked the smartest. Our tech was lean, secure, elegant. And the industry had grown tired of over-engineered messes wrapped in overpriced licensing. They wanted clarity. We gave them that. I remember walking into our Austin HQ 6 months after the Series A. The floors were polished concrete. Glass walls. A quiet hum of engineers in their flow states. No foosball. No beanbags. No fake perks. Just purpose. And on the wall behind the reception desk was a simple plaque Isla had installed without telling me. Build quiet. Prove loud. I stared at it for a long time. Because she got it. She always had. One day, I got an email from Deltawell's head of sales, a man I'd never met. He wrote, "Several of our enterprise clients have requested migration guidance to your platform. We would like to discuss integration partnerships." I didn't respond. I forwarded it to our legal team with one note. "Make sure we own everything. And be kind. They're dying slowly." People kept asking me, "Do you feel vindicated? Do you feel like you won?" But I didn't feel like I'd won. Because this wasn't a game. This wasn't a scoreboard. This was life finally unfolding without someone else's hand on the brakes. Some nights, I'd stay late at the office. Not working. Just watching. Watching the team solve problems I didn't assign. Watching interns become engineers. Watching Isla lead product meetings with a kind of fire that didn't burn, it lit the room. And I'd think about that day Ronan fired me. His smug certainty. His cutting words. That moment he thought he'd buried me. But he didn't bury me. He planted me. And now? Now I grow. The last time I saw Ronan Maddox, he didn't look powerful. He looked tired. I was speaking at a global tech ethics conference in DC, not my usual scene, but they'd asked me to talk about sustainable scale and founder integrity. I almost said no. But then I saw the list of attendees. Ronan was on it. Keynote speaker. His photo, 5 years out of date. His bio, twice as long as it needed to be. The man still clung to the illusion of control. I accepted. The night before the event, I sat alone at the rooftop bar of the hotel, watching the lights of DC flicker like data streams. I didn't rehearse. I didn't plan what I'd say if I saw him. Because honestly, I didn't care anymore. He was no longer part of the equation. He was a variable that had been solved. Reduced. Simplified. I walked into the main hall the next morning and saw him across the lobby. Gray suit. Slouched posture. Eyes scanning the room not with authority, but with anxiety. And then, he saw me. He didn't smirk. He didn't sneer. He looked uncertain. Like a man who wasn't sure if I would spit in his face or shake his hand. I did neither. I nodded. That's it. Just a quiet, respectful nod. And something changed in his face. He walked over. Slowly. No entourage. No press handler. Marshal, he said, almost like he wasn't sure I'd answer. Ronan. Looks like you made something real. I let the silence stretch. Then I said, I did. You helped. That landed like a stone in his throat. He looked down. Swallowed. Then forced a smile. Guess I underestimated you. I shrugged. You saw me as a tool. Tools stop working. People? They adapt. He nodded. No anger. Just resignation. Good luck, Marshal. You too. And then he walked away. No grand confrontation. No final insult. Just two men, passing like trains on separate tracks, one going up, one going down. My keynote wasn't about revenge. It was about resilience. About what happens when you're told you're obsolete, and you prove, not just to them, but to yourself, that you were never the problem. You were just early. Today, Crane Protocol powers over 40 global networks. We don't advertise. We don't chase headlines. We just build. Isla is now COO. Devin runs cybersecurity for 3 continents. Our interns? 2 of them founded companies of their own. And me? I'm calm. I'm whole. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So if you ever get fired, if they ever look you in the eye and tell you you're slowing things down, don't fight them. Thank them. Because sometimes being thrown out isn't the end. It's the beginning.